Today I was going to share some tips on how to get started in Guild Wars 2. It's a pretty simple MMO once you get the hang of it, but this is still very different from other MMOs. Let's start off with the classes and the races in this game. When it comes to races, you can pick whatever you want. It does not matter what you pick. Usually in other MMOs, they would have some stats according to each race, but in this one, you don't have to worry about that. You just pick whichever one you think looks the coolest, or whichever one you think that you would enjoy the most. Of course, the beginning of the story has a lot to do with what race and also what zone you spawn in. But still, even at level 1, you can travel to any of the beginner zones if you want to, as long as you look at the level range of the zone. Like for example, Queensdale is 1 through 15, and that's the human starting zone. Then Silvari is over here. So you can easily travel to each one if you want to, it does not matter. So if you got friends that you're playing with and they want to play a different race, don't worry about it, you can easily get to them. When it comes to classes, every class basically is a DPS class. And later on, you can decide whether or not you want to turn them into support or if you want to make them more tanky. It's completely up to you how you want to play this. This game doesn't have the trinity like usually in most MMOs, so you don't have to worry about those aspects. If you want to go full DPS, then you go ahead and you do that. Just don't even worry about your spec. Just play what is fun for you. And when it comes to each class, I can personally recommend for a new player, Guardian, Necromancer, and Thief. Those three are the easiest to play, not only with utility-wise and everything, but they have a lot of really good abilities. For example, the Guardian by default is very strong. So you're going to be getting a lot of self-heals, and you're also going to be getting a lot of shields that you could be using to negate damage. Necromancer has basically 2 health bars. So if you're finding yourself in a bind and you start taking a lot of damage on your normal self, you can swap into the dark stance. I forget the name of it, but you go into that mode and it's basically a 2nd health bar. That way you can just keep going. Thief is my personal favorite, and it's mainly because it has a lot of escapes. You can go invisible using dagger on your offhand. And later on, if you decided to get the Path of Fire and Heart of Thorns expansions, you can get Deadeye, which is really good because basically all you do is dodge and you're invisible. So it has so many different escape abilities that it makes it so good for survivability. But you're free to pick whatever you want. Like if you want to go with Mesmer, go for it. If you want to go with Elementalist, go for it. But I mainly recommended those 3 because I feel like those 3 are the easiest to play. Because for example, if you try to do Elementalist, you're going to probably have a hard time if this is your first time playing it, because it's very complicated compared to the other classes, since you have to be swapping between elements, and also the survivability is very, very low compared to the ones that I mentioned. So it's definitely a tougher class to play than let's say Guardian, for example. But it's up to you. Go ahead and do what you're gonna do. The first tip that I highly recommend you do the moment you start playing this game is to activate the action combat button. If you go into the settings, go to control options and scroll down till you hit camera. Right here, you see toggle action camera. You can set that for one of your buttons. It doesn't matter which one. I put mine as left control. So what this does is that when you press left control, it just turns into a cursor in the center. You see that? And then from there, you can aim where you want to shoot. So let's say, for example, I want to aim right there and I want to shoot there. I can go ahead and do that. So it makes the combat feel more like an action combat system compared to other MMOs. Some more options you can do is you can go in here and under the general options till you get over here to ground targeting. I have mine set for ground targeting on instant. That way when I want to drop an AoE on the ground, I don't have to double tap the button. It would just automatically do it. So for example, right here, you see I have 3 abilities that are ground target. This one, and this one. So if I press the 3rd skill, see, it would just instantly just put it down instead of having to press it multiple times. And wherever I'm aiming, it will throw it. If you already have a target set, what you could do in the options as well, go down to camera again. You can set this right here, snap ground target to current target. That way, when you already have a target set, like that guy over there, So even if I'm not aiming directly at him, it's still gonna shoot it in his direction. Some other good options to have is right here, AoE loot on interact. That's really good. And then these two options right here, you get later on when you start working on your masteries, which is the auto loot. When you kill a target, it just immediately goes into your bag, which is not gonna be something until you get till end game, but I'm gonna show you what it is anyway. This could end up being a goal of yours once you hit level 80. But you go to masteries, central Tyria, and then right here, you got to finish pack leader all the way to the end. Now let's talk about questing. Questing in this game is not like other MMOs where you would typically go to a town and go to all the exclamation points and pick up every single quest. It's not like that. In this game, there's these hearts. So you go to these hearts and those are the quests of the game. So when you get to that area, you'll see on the top right, it popped up telling you what you have to do to finish this quest. And you're free to do any of these things to complete your quest. So let's say, for example, it wants me to unearth these worm mounds. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. A worm is going to pop up. I kill it. And it gave me credit for killing it and also bringing the worm out. So you can stay doing this if you want to over and over, or you can go help the cows, entertain them, which I think you got to dance in front of them or something. There you go. Do a little dance. So it's like, it's basically you do anything pertaining to this quest and you'll complete it. Another thing to keep an eye out for is event quests. So this is basically these orange rings that pop up randomly on the map. So it could be a defense mission, or it could be an escort, or it can be straight up a bunch of enemies attacking a town. If you let them attack the town, then they will eventually take over that town, and then you can't teleport to that area anymore, resulting in you having to take the town back, or them possibly spreading over to other towns and taking over other ones. It's really cool how the event system works in this game because it makes the game feel more alive. And there's a lot of times where you would go through an area once, maybe run into a couple of event quests. The next playthrough that you come through here with a alt or something, you could end up seeing totally different events pop up. So this makes the game feel a lot more immersed, and there's just so much more value to the way questing is in this game. So that's what makes this game really special. Then there is exploration. So you can keep track of this by zooming out your map like this and mousing over the name of the zone. And you'll see how my completion is at 31%. It shows I have 1 out of 17 hearts and a bunch of other stuff. So I'm going to go through each one of those. You already know what the hearts are, but then there's these triangle ones. This one is the vistas. It's basically like Assassin's Creed style, where it just shows you the whole area. And that's pretty much all that is. Some of the other ones are points of interest. That's the square. You just walk up to that area and then you'll discover that part of the zone. And if you haven't been to a certain area, you'll see it like all blotchy like this. All you do is just go to that area and it'll eventually reveal that part of the zone. Then we have the waypoints. These are your teleport spots. So you can teleport to any one of those. It will cost you a little bit of money. But if you want to get straight to the action and jump straight to where you need to be, you can go ahead and just double click on that and go right to it. And the last one is the hero points. The hero points are usually like a little challenge where you have to fight a veteran enemy. So these hero points, it's used to get some more abilities, especially for your utility tray and also your specializations. Once you 100% this area, it will give you a treasure chest with some goodies in it. One of the main things that people like to collect is the little transmog tokens. And these transmog tokens, you can go into your equipment tab and you go over to wardrobe. You can swap out pieces of gear for anything that you've collected in the game. So if you salvage it or you equipped it, it becomes yours and you can go ahead and put it on. So it's pretty cool to mess around with this system. The only thing that I recommend doing with this is do not use it while you're leveling up, because you're going to be constantly replacing your gear, and that's going to result in you wasting all your transmutation charges. I definitely recommend you get to max level, which is level 80, before you start messing around with this system. Also, if you're lost trying to find certain hearts or hero points or anything like that in the zone, then the easiest thing to do is on the top left here, just mouse over what you want. So for example, I'm going to zoom in a little bit and I'm going to mouse over the heart. And you see how it glows? So you can repeatedly keep clicking on it and it'll show you exactly where that heart is. Which one thing I forgot to mention is down here, you see that little telescope thing? Let's go to it. This will show you where more hearts are. So if you speak to them, they'll explain the whole area, and they'll show you exactly where more hearts are, and they'll reveal some of the map for you.
It's difficult for Claypool to maintain.
So definitely talk to these people whenever you can, at least once. You'll see it on your map. You see how it disappeared now? So now you don't need to bother talking to them again. Now let's talk about the main story quest. So this is the MSQ. On the top right, you'll see the green wording with this little hurricane looking thing. You can click on that and it'll open up your journal here. You can see what part of the story you left off at. And right here, it will guide you to where it is. So I can open up my map and see, there it is. It's telling me to go into Divinity's Reach, which is most likely going to guide me to a portal that's going to take me over to my mainland. So if I zoom out the map, I can probably see where I'm supposed to be. And there it is. You see that big star? That's exactly where the quest takes place. So if I wanted to just zoom in, look, it's an uncovered area, so I still have to explore that. But once I get to that area, it's going to most likely prompt an instance that it will take you to that's going to be only for you, and it's going to be just completely about the main story. Which the great thing about this game is that everything is fully voiced, so you don't have to do any reading, like very minimal reading, because there's still some times where you have to read every once in a while, but it's not as much as other MMOs, so that's one of the best features in this game. I really hate reading, so it's beautiful to be able to just sit back and just listen to the story. I mentioned collecting hero points earlier, but now I'm going to go deeper into what they do and how to use them. When you start accumulating a lot of these hero points, you can start upgrading some of this like this, and you'll get some new abilities that you can use in your tray. And you can swap those abilities by just pressing on the skill change on the top here, and you can change to whatever type of heal you want in here. So if I wanted this one right here, I could just click on it. See, and it'll show me what tree I need to be leveling up with this one. And then I can go ahead and grab it. Boom. Now I got that heal. Now let's talk about making a build. So still under the same tab under P, you click on build, and you'll eventually get access to these, which are a bunch of different specializations, which you do have to unlock using that same system that I showed earlier, which is under the training here. So for example, I unlocked all the specializations, so I have them all ready to go. And that was by collecting all those hero points. Every time you level up, you'll also get hero points on top of just doing your exploration and finding those hero points out in the world. So when you're looking at a build here, for example, you want to look at the main abilities. So these are the ones that are attached, and then you can pick which one in between that you feel would suit your build. So for example, if I wanted to be more supportive for a team, then I would go with this one, and it says increases your healing to other allies each time you block an attack. These stuff like that makes you into kind of like a healer, even though this game is not meant for you to be a healer from the start. So pretty much every single class in this game has some kind of support. Even Thief has support abilities. So this is something to keep in mind all the time. You don't have to worry about making a healer or making a tank or anything, which, you know, some classes do specialize in it a little bit better than others, but it's not enough to like make or break a build. So that's the good thing about this game. So if all this stuff intimidates you, then you could always go to a website like Meta Battle, for example. I'll leave a link to it in the description, and you can look for builds for whatever you're trying to achieve. So let's say if you're free to play and you're just playing the base game with no expansions, then you want to click on this core free to play, and you can look through some of these. You see here's some Guardian ones right here. So let's say I wanted to do this one. So we go core support shout build. So this is most likely like kind of a healer build. It tells you what kind of weapons to use. So this is the staff, and then sword and shield is what they're recommending. So if I wanted to, I can copy this template code like this, copy the code, go over to the game, right click on the first tab or whichever tab you're on, and press paste. And there we go. Now it just copied over the build. Now I'll just have to go pick up the weapons that they recommended, And then also I'll have to get these skills, which I don't have the skills right now. So I can just go ahead and click on it like that and then train up my abilities to get that. There it is. I got it. So that's pretty much how it goes when you're making builds. The best way to get weapons and gear in this game is to go on the auction house. So you just go over to the Black Lion Trading Company. You see right up here. Click on the trading post, go to weapons, and let's say I needed a staff. Go over to staff. I can filter it from my level range. In this case, I'm max level, so I'm just going to put it as 80. And then you can set what kind of attributes you want. So let's say if you wanted to go full attack power, then you would go power, precision, and ferocity. Power is for your base attack. Precision is for crit chance, and ferocity is for crit damage. Since this build that I picked is most likely a healer build, then that's probably not what they recommend me doing. I guess with this build, it's a pretty old one, so they don't have the armor sets I'm supposed to be using, because usually they would list that. So I'm going to go by my best guess, and I'm going to assume that they want healing power in there. And that's basically how it goes. You go ahead and you make your filter. You filter it for the price right here, like that. And then you look for the cheapest one. And there goes the cheapest one right there. Just go ahead and pick it up, and that's it. And that's how I do my builds at 80 also. So when you get to max level, this is the easiest way to gear out. Because at least in this game, you don't have to worry about grinding a bunch of dungeons and periodically upgrading your gear with your gear score like slightly every time. In this game, you buy a piece of gear and you're good for a while until you upgrade to the next tier set. So the sets go as followed. It goes from basic all the way up to legendary. Ascended and legendary are both harder to get. Those are tied to a lot of achievements and also crafting and things like that, and also PvP. But the main ones I focus on is exotic and rare. So exotic being basically the highest that you're going to get from the auction house, and it's still very good gear. And as you can see, it's not very expensive at all. You see how the cheapest exotic right here is 40 silver. That's nothing. By the time you hit level 80, you'll definitely have enough money for that. And you can do the same thing with your armor sets. So if you wanted to get some armor, you can go ahead and filter it the same exact way. But as you're leveling up, I recommend that the main thing you replace every 10 levels is your weapon. So always come on here to the auction house. Pick the weapon that you like. So if you've been really enjoying Greatsword, then go ahead to Greatsword. Filter it for the level that you are. So let's say if you're level 40. Get rid of this filter right here. And there we go. Just pick the one, pick a blue one or a green one. It doesn't matter. I recommend like just picking one that you can afford. Don't pick the white one, but try to get the green or the blue. And that's your best bet. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about was PvP. So you click on the little swords on the top left, and you can press the play button to go right into it. But I don't recommend doing that if that's your first time doing it, because you need to set up a build first. So you can do that by pressing P, opening up the equipment thing, press on equipment, and then right up here, this tab, click on it, and it'll switch it over to PvP. Then you can slap in the stuff. So like the relics, then this is your armor build basically of all the stuff that you're planning to do. Let's say condition damage, whatever. Then there's your weapon sigils, which is something I forgot to explain on the PvE side of the game. I highly recommend if you're going to run some weapon sigils that you run this one specifically. This is the Bloodlust. This gives you 10 power every single time you kill a monster or an enemy, whatever. And it stacks up to 25 times. So you're going to be getting a lot of power out of it. There's also a condition damage version of this, and I believe a healing power version of this. So if you wanted to stack that all up and into a certain area, then you can go ahead and do that. I don't believe they stack together like each one. I mean, I could be wrong, but this is definitely a really nice one if you're leveling up. And it's cheap. Look at that, 5 silver. Another one that's really good is this one, the Force, which is straight out just damage. So this is 5% damage, boom, and that's it. And of course, these go into different tiers. So depending on what level you are, you're probably going to have to get a lower tier version, which isn't going to give you as much as these. But the cool thing on the PvP side of things, you can pick all this stuff without having to buy it. So you just click on it, you pick which one you want, you slap it on, and that's it. And you can keep testing your build and keep swapping things, or you can go to that meta battle website and just like copy paste the build and that's it. Just slap it in and call it a day. But it's completely up to you. So it makes it really nice to kind of like test things and do whatever you want. And this type of PvP is the structured arena stuff. So it's usually like teams of 3 or 5 or whatever. This is actually my favorite PvP. This is the one I enjoy the most. Then there's the world versus world. This one is completely different. I highly recommend that you be max level when you're coming into this, because you're going to need your gear to be good and your weapons, of course. So when you're coming in here and you try to do this at like level 10 or something, you're going to get stomped by all the max level people. So that's the main reason why I recommend you wait until you're max level to come in here. But you can go over to the Eternal Battlegrounds. That's the main place that people like to fight. And then there's these other ones in case the Eternal Battlegrounds is full or has a long queue time. You could always just spend time in those as you wait for the queue to pop on that one. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about crafting or anything because I'm not a crafter myself. I usually don't care about crafting in any MMO. But I do love gathering stuff. So if you come to a merchant like this, you can go in there and you can see all the different things you can pick up, the mining pick and all that. You have to keep in mind the level. So you see how this one says level requirement level 10. As you're leveling up, you want to make sure that you're upgrading this every 10 or so levels to the next tier. Because otherwise, when you start gathering a material, it's going to give you a bunch of gray items that are useless. So always make sure you're upgrading these things. Another thing that's really good to collect from this merchant is these salvage kits. These salvage kits let you rip apart pieces of equipment like weapons and armor and turn them into salvage materials that you can send straight to your bank like I showed. So if I went ahead and I picked up these mining picks and stuff, you want to make sure you equip them by double clicking on them. And you'll see them equipped it on your character like so. You see that right down there. And there's a certain amount of uses that you can use before you run out and it basically breaks and you'll need to equip the new one. So that's why I recommend that you buy a good stock of these. So buy like 3 sets of them if you plan on doing a lot of mining and a lot of gathering and stuff. That way, when you're running around in the zones, you don't have to come back to the town and do it all over again. You see that big rock right on my mini map? And then there's also a plant there. So those two are mining nodes, or gathering nodes, I should say. So there's one right here. Where is it? I don't see it. Oh, there it is. Sprout. So I can gather it. There we go. I gathered that. There it is right there. Go ahead and cut this tree down. There we go. Now I got the materials. So the cool thing about this is that I could just press the deposit materials button and it'll just throw it straight into my bank. Or you could even right click on it and press deposit material. It'll send it in there. That's it. That way you can constantly keep your inventory flowing and you're not always full and have to go back to town or anything. It's really nice to be able to just do that. And then when you're ready in the future and you have like a stockpile of all that stuff, you could sell it on the auction house, or you can convert them to higher tier materials, craft stuff yourself. It's all up to you what you want to do with it. Which here's a quick little tip. If you click on the go to lobby for the PvP, in that area you will find the auction house, the bank, and also the materials vendor, so you can buy some more picks and all that stuff. So like right here, here's the merchant. See, you can buy some of the mining picks and all those things, and the salvage kits in here. That way you don't have to be traveling all over the place trying to figure out where the hell these merchants are. You can just go there, click on the PvP button, exit the lobby, and go back to where you came from. Boom, easy mode. But anyways, I think that covers everything beginner wise. I'm going to be doing an end game guide eventually. But for now, I didn't want to overwhelm you guys with too much stuff with the beginning because there is a lot to this game. But I wanted to give you at least the extreme basics of this. But if you have any questions, leave a comment below. I'll be glad to answer anything. And thanks for watching. Leave a thumbs up if you liked the video, thumbs down if you didn't. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.